I'm very excited for this trip because I'm taking it with my mom, and I feel like it's going to be a really, really great bonding experience for us. Hello! I knew this day would come. I've been sitting on this footage. I've been sitting on this synchronicity story, one of the biggest of my life, for 3 years now, and I think the time has finally come to share it. So, hi, if you're brand new to my channel, my name is Britt Lynn, and I am a self-study entrepreneur. What that means is that I have a whole business around coming to know the self more fully and teaching others how to come to know themselves more fully. I do this by hosting in-person and online workshops. You can check out all of my services and offerings on brittlynnlebeouf.com. Be sure to follow me on social media if you're digging my vibe. I also have a weekly newsletter called the Weekly Wake Up that you can sign up for on my website, and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube so that you don't miss any of my upcoming stuff. So I told just a tiny piece of this story in 2017, which is when this happened, and today is the 3-year anniversary since everything went down. And not only is today the 3-year anniversary, but also my mom passed away since this whole thing happened. She passed away a 1.5 years ago, and this occurred 3 years ago. So it's literally like this gateway that's open for me to release the footage, to tell the story, and to communicate the synchronicity and the magnitude of the synchronicity here on this YouTube channel for anyone in the future who feels like they're having synchronicity stories occurring in their lives and don't know how to integrate it, or people that are skeptical of miracles or synchronicity stories. So this is the disclaimer that I want to use before I start to tell this really vulnerable synchronicity story that happened in my life. In order for us to really understand synchronicity stories and miracles, we need to allow ourselves to sink into the experience of another person, right? We need to separate ourselves from our own identity and realize that just because something isn't significant or meaningful in our own lives doesn't mean that it's not significant or meaningful in somebody else's life. Do you understand what I mean? As soon as my mom passed away, I started seeing 1208 all over the place. And for me, that was a message. For other people, they wouldn't probably think anything about 1208, but December 8th was my mom's birthday. And I know just through the ways that the numbers were showing up and the moments they were showing up, when they would show up and I was actually thinking about something about her, it's like these are the ways that our loved ones, our angels, our higher guides, God, the universe, whatever higher powers that you feel connected to, that you want to be receiving messages from, numbers are one of the ways that they can communicate to us, because if they show up in physical form to tell us things, we're going to be caught off guard. We're not going to be having a good time. We're going to be freaking out. So numbers are a really gentle way to show significance, to show guidance, to show synchronicity. So here we go. I made a video here on my YouTube channel. You can click it here or here and go and check it out. It was my wedding dress video. My mom and I drove out to San Diego just to spend a weekend together. We stayed at my girlfriend Jessica's house, and we woke up on this morning and we knew that we were going to have an amazing day. So as soon as we were leaving that morning, my mom looked so beautiful. She had this beautiful dress on. Her hair was pulled down to a low pony, and we were walking out the gate, and I told her, oh, you know what? Can you just stop right there and turn around so I could take a picture of you? And she turned around and I took this picture, and I just still can't believe this photo happened for a lot of different reasons. Usually when my mom takes pictures, she looks off and not directly into the camera. Look right in the middle. Right in there. I feel like a lot of times you look over here.
I do. Look at this. I got dropsy on that one, boy.
She always looks away from the camera, and I never know where it is that she's looking. And she's looking directly in the camera in this photo, and she just looks like her pure heart self. My mom is like the sweetest, most kind, selfless person ever, and I feel like all of those energies come through so beautifully in this photo. And as soon as she passed away, I took the reins and I told my family, this is going to be the photo that we use for like everything, for her memorial photo, for absolutely everything. This is going to be the photo. And I didn't even know at the time that I took this photo that the day was going to pan out the way that it was. And I didn't even know that none of us knew that she wasn't going to be here. Just a few years later, we had no idea. Okay, so I take the photo and we go to lunch.
What's the question? 3 human qualities that inspire you.
Kindness, sympathy, and loving gestures.
Loving gesture.
Have an amazing lunch. And then we're walking and we're going to go to a bridal studio.
We're gonna go to some bridal shops, even though I'm not gonna be able to try anything on because I didn't know that I was supposed to make an appointment.
And my mom says,
But we're going to pray that the Lord will open doors.
That's what's gonna happen.
So we got to the place.
So we are here at the Dress Theory and we don't have an appointment.
We're screwed. And then that actually wound up happening.
It's so amazing. Rhiannon?
We're sitting there going, what are we going to do now?
Rhiannon, tell me what you just said one more time. We had a ride cancel last minute.
And the way that this next part is going to go is that I'm just going to let the entire story play out from the footage that we have a few years ago, because my mom is telling the story too. And then I'm going to get on and just share some significance around the numbers and we'll take it from there.
My lifestyle is not that understood by many people. How could it be like I'm having my own personal experience from my own personal life and have a family with religious backgrounds, and when my beliefs don't align with theirs, they kind of don't know what they can believe and what they can't. With this kind of stuff, I personally have to surrender and just allow for experience to happen. And yesterday, experience happened. We were placed in a life-threatening situation, and it was after like the best day ever. And 2 literal angels stepped in to help us in the flesh. Both her and I had been seeing numbers all day long. I was seeing 333, 444, and 7s and 1s all day. 7117 was everywhere yesterday. My mom is like the super spirit side of my family. I think that's where I got it from. But she's Christian, and you know, when I don't call Jesus Christ my Lord and Savior, she doesn't know whether my stuff holds any, but our beliefs in God are the same. Kind of, not really. Hers in a religious aspect. But anyway, yeah, there's no denying experience we had yesterday, and it's going to be up on YouTube soon. Mine and my mom's retelling of what happened today.
Y'all need to help us. My mom's gonna die out here.
Okay, go ahead and go back to your seat.
Go back to your seat.
Okay, so yeah, how do you feel like we should do this? So hi guys, my mom's back. Mom, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jeri. I'm Mom.
She's the mom. And we kind of wanted to make a separate video from the original San Diego wedding dress trip video, because what happened at the end of the trip was pretty astonishing.
A big one.
It was a big one, and we haven't really known what to do with it or whatever. So we wanted to make a separate video because this experience was pretty crazy. It could have been very life-threatening. We could have had to wind up getting a lot of serious things involved. And by the grace of, for me,
God and the universe and you as well.
By the grace of God, I was saved through this horrible experience.
Could have been horrible.
Could have been a horrible
Was
experience. Mega panic attack, which I've never been one to have. So it really scared me. So let's just start, Brittany.
So, okay, it makes me queasy to watch that footage of my mom going down.
I better go help her. She's almost down. I'm so proud of her.
Because of what wound up happening later. So we wound up going down to the beach and having just the best time down there and getting in the ocean and just having such a good time.
We just played. We found a huge, huge rock in the ocean that was flat that we were able to just kind of
walk on so
and
flat.
stay on. And then I hopped out to go just, you know, chill in the sun, and Brittany stayed playing in the water. And then within about, 20 minutes, half an hour?
The photographer,
Yeah.
Lexi
got there, a little cutie pie, and they got to work. They immediately started shooting. Before we had gone down, I was like, woohoo, beach, excited. I wanted to have a beer on the beach. So we stopped by 7-Eleven, and I picked up a Mike's Harder lemonade, cherry lemonade or whatever.
cherry flavor.
Cherry flavor.
Cherry lime.
Yeah, that's important. I put it in my cup, and we took it down with us to the beach. So I've been sipping that. I had maybe a cup of this drink that I was drinking.
We wind up getting down the cliff, and it's like when we first started going down the cliff, you were like, I can't do this. And I was like, yeah, you can. Watch, you're gonna be with me. You're gonna be fine. Like, if you tell yourself that you can't, then you won't be able to. And then you started going down ahead of me. I was literally so surprised. I was so proud of you, and that's when I made the video earlier.
I know that she wouldn't normally be doing something like this if I weren't encouraging her to move forward. I'm so proud of her because, like, I just can't even believe that she's doing this right now. Yay for new things. My mom's been telling me on this trip, like, this has been so fun. I've been doing so many new things. And I'm like, yeah!
And then
I sat on the beach and watched them do the photo shoot and just drank my little drink. And then I remembered that in my swimming bag there was a little bit of reefer. So I decided that I'm on the beach. I'm celebrating, I'm partying. So I was going to take a hit. So I did, and I took a hit thinking, no big deal. I didn't think at all about having to climb out of there. I didn't think anything except for, oh, this is a good time to take a hit.
I just want to say this, that this didn't mean my mom was there like smoking an entire bowl of weed or anything like that. It was like she takes the tiniest hits. It's not like she was beside herself, inebriated. And when we were going down there, half the drink had spilled out of the cup anyway, so there's just not a way that she was incredibly intoxicated and like unable to do this. I think it had a lot more to do with the fact that you don't do that much physically, and we were having to like navigate around these like different textures of rock, and they were at different angles, and she just doesn't have like a lot of muscle and strength, so it was going to be a little bit harder getting out.
But she forgets to mention that the tide had been coming in.
Yeah.
We know nothing of tides. We know nothing of the ocean.
We don't know nothing of tides, but we didn't know that this particular beach was going to have a tide that was rising that day. And Lexi, the photographer, at the end of the shoot, she was like, okay, we should probably start wrapping up. The tide's going to start coming in. And then a lot of things happened within a few minutes, and this is where things started to get crazy. So we walk back to my mom. I see my mom with the pipe, and I was like, I should have probably known that she was going to do this, but I didn't want to freak her out, so I was just like, you know, woohoo, like, let's start packing up, let's start leaving. And then
But we did talk for a while still.
Yeah,
about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we kept chatting. And in my head, I was like, oh, I don't want to put the pressure on, but I know that, you know, the sun is going down too. It was going down really, really fast. It was getting dark really fast, and I could see that the tide was rising more quickly than I thought it would. So I was like, okay, come on, let's go. So we start walking, and she's in like the world's most ridiculous flip-flops that are just like the most bendy rubber ever. They have absolutely no support. Lexi was ahead of us, the photographer, and she was going to be a lot faster than us, so I was like, okay, you know, you should probably just go ahead and go because we're going to take our time.
Then we get to the rocks, and Brittany starts climbing on one, and she says, come on, you can do it. And I said, no, I can't do this. But I climbed the rock with her anyways, and kind of stood up there and looked around at my surroundings, and I said, I can't do this. There is absolutely no way. One thing that Brittany, I don't know if she's mentioned before, I don't have the greatest health, and I'm actually on blood thinners, so I have to be super careful, and I have a super large spleen. So those were my two greatest concerns. We thought that we were going to have to climb over these huge, huge rocks to get around, to go up, because all the rocks that we came on, which were smaller, were already completely covered up by the tides coming in by that time.
So I look at my mom, and I literally just see her whole face go gray. Literally, all the blood drains from her face, and she's like, Brittany, I can't do it. And her lips are blue, like in an instant it was. And I was just like, don't say that to yourself, like we're gonna make it out. And in my head, I'm starting to have a panic attack too, because I was like, oh my gosh, like there are so many factors working against us. My mom's health, my mom's lack of strength, the precautionary measures that we have to take, the tide is coming up, the sun is going down. And I started envisioning helicopters having to come in and get us, and for us to have to start calling the police. And I even screamed up the cliff, Lexi, Lexi, to the photographer to try to get her to turn around, because it was at that point that I realized I was going to need help getting out of here, because with her shoes, I had on sandals too, and my heart is racing now. I like just realized like shit, this could be a really, really, really bad scenario. And then my mom starts telling me, I can't die like this, I can't die like this, and it freaks me out that she's automatically going to this death place.
And I told you, I will die today.
Yeah.
You will lose me today if I have to climb those rocks. Well, those rocks wound up being, there was a path going up that was deep, but it was small, and it was very rocky with ridges of rocks coming up this path. Okay, so now tell them about.
Okay, so I am looking on the beach, and there's 2 people left on the beach. The beach was like full of people whenever we had first gotten there, but everyone had left before us, and there were only 2 more people on the beach. And I was like, I'm gonna go talk to these guys. Jay, I'll be right back. And right before I left, my mom turns over to see this rock, and the rock has a mural of a fish on it, like a big, big fish, like a big, big fish. And on the top of it, it says Joree in like clear block black letters. And Jeri is the nickname that I've had for her forever, and she hates that I call her that. And I spell it that same way, Joree. And she was like, oh, Britt, look! And I turn around, and it's literally sitting right here behind us. And I was like, what? Like in this moment, Picasso's like, oh my god, I haven't heard this story, guys. But yeah, it was in that moment that I was just like, what is going on here? And my mom was like, I can do it. I can do it. And I was like, yeah, you can do it. Like any piece of positivity that I could like amplify and draw out of her even more. I was like, yeah, you can. You just sit and think about that, and I'm gonna go talk to these people over here. So I take off running. There's these 2 gentlemen. They're amazing, Isaiah and Nick. And I was just like, hey guys. And I didn't just want to come out and be like, y'all need to help us. My mom's gonna die out here. So I was just like, out here with my mom. She came down here against her better judgment, and her and I are really having a hard time about getting out of here because we know the tide is rising and the sun is setting. And they were like, do you want us to help you? And I was like, that would be so amazing. And they were like, oh yeah, let's do it. And Nick goes, yeah, we need to hurry because the tide is coming up quickly, so let's go. And they had been flying a drone down there. So I was like, you know, are you guys leaving anyways? And they were like, yeah, we were just about to take off right now, so let's go. And they started coming over to us, and I was just like, you know, thank you guys so much. My mom's a little teeny bit not sober, and she just is really, really fearful and truly believes that she is gonna die out here today. So they kind of knew a little bit of the situation, even though they didn't know her, but I was just profusely thanking them, and they came over, and we all introduced each other. And then they were like, okay, let's get going.
But I could tell, I could see the little bit of anxiety that was in them.
Yeah.
It was clear that they were coming to assist me, and they knew that the situation was as dire as it was, and they knew that we had to get going. And so they told me, you're just going to listen to us, step where we tell you to step, go where we tell you to go, and you can do this. They told me, you can do this, we'll get you out of here. So we go.
And I was ahead of them for the majority of the time, and halfway up I was just like, I really should be back there helping, but I could see that they were just stronger than I was. They were more sure of the rock. They had way better shoes on. I wound up switching shoes with my mom so she could wear my Birkenstocks because they have a strap around the ankle, and not like they're so much more supportive. But I was making my way up in the flip-flops, and I was just like, jeez Louise, these are literally the worst. Like, if I knew that she was going down in those shoes, I never would have let her go down in those shoes because I could hardly make it up the rock in those flip-flops, and I'm super able and agile on rock. It was such a blessing being able to turn around and see these two guys that we didn't know while my mom was like stepping up rocks and stuff. They would be like securing her ankles to make sure that she was able to step on her foot with power, and they were like helping by either grabbing her hand and pulling her up, or one was behind and like able to help her up. It was scary. It was really
there was
scary.
one guy that would be in front of me, and if I needed help because I didn't have the rocks to pull myself up, he would hold out his hand and pull me up. And the guy behind me, he was such a gentleman, and you know, I'm old, but still, he was such a gentleman that he didn't even want to touch my butt to push me up. He put his hand on it for the first time, but I could tell just by his touch that he was very tentative. So I turned around and I told him, you don't need to worry about touching my butt. You can touch my butt. I don't care. So that's the way we went up.
So that's the way we went up, and we kind of just kept trucking it forward, and then these intrusive thoughts started like flooding through me. And for those of you that have never experienced intrusive thoughts, what they are those moments that a lot of people experience when they're on like a very high up level of a building or something, and their mind just goes to this place like, oh, what if I were to jump out the window? Or in a car, like, what if I were to jump out of a moving car? Or what if I chopped my hair off in the kitchen? Or even a lot of postpartum mothers go through intrusive thoughts that are like, what if I threw my baby out the window? And it doesn't have anything to do with who you are as a person. It doesn't mean that you're bad or evil or have anything to do with these intrusive thoughts, but they're just, they're intrusive. You don't invite them in, they're just there. They're like your deepest fears. Yeah, they're your worst fears. And there was the last section of the hike back up was this narrow pathway, and then it was just a drop off to the cliff, and on this side there was some railing, and I was like, okay Mom, turn your body and hold these bars and sidestep your way up, because I had these intrusive thoughts where I just saw her like falling backwards off of this cliff, and I started imagining having to tell my dad and my sister that my mom had died and what that would be like. And for people that are prone to anxiety, and if you've ever experienced this, please leave it in the comment section down below so that we know that we're not alone, because they can be really overtaking. Like, they can really take you over, and you can really think that you almost like put yourself in a situation like that is more probable to happen by envisioning it and thinking that
it is able to happen. Like, of course, yes, maybe she could have lost her footing and it would happen, but by really sitting there and like thinking about it and thinking that it's more probable than it really is could make it happen like more. And anyways, having those thoughts were absolutely terrifying, and I was just like, okay, Mom, like, stop talking, like, let's get this done. So we made it to the top.
And when she told me that, I never looked back. Even when I was on safe ground with her, I never looked back at the ocean because there was too much fear there. I mean, I was so thankful that the Lord had brought those guys along, and literally I told the guys over and over that they were angels sent by God, because without them, we couldn't have done it. We could not have done it without them. Mm-hmm. At the point where I was so fearful, I didn't trust that she was able to help me alone. Maybe help me with somebody else's help, but even the two girls, her and Lexi, I didn't think they could help me together. But these two young, strong guys were just God sent. Yeah.
Sent the last two people there, and they could have just as easily been like, oh no, we kind of can't, or you know, whatever. And then whenever we got to the top, I was like, please let us take a picture with you. And I took a picture of just these guys. We took the picture, and then they were like, okay, bye. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal to them. Man, but then it was cool too, because whenever we got back in the car and we were like, oh my gosh, like both of us were just so physically and mentally exhausted, drained, and we were supposed to go out for a big celebratory dinner that night because I had just found my wedding dress. Mm-hmm. And we had the greatest day ever, but my mom was like, can we just get food and go back to Jessica's house? And I was like, what? Yes, like, please, yes. I don't want to go out anymore either. I think it's interesting too, because something that we've kind of dealt with over the last few years is me seeing my mom's inability to really like stand up for herself and stand in a place that's like, this is what I want, without having to apologize for it a lot. And whenever she said that she didn't really want to go to dinner, she was like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, don't be. I think that we do that to ourselves a lot, where we assume that a person is going to react a certain way. So we kind of keep our mouths shut. But you just never know. Whenever you voice something, the other person could just be like, oh, totally. And maybe you guys both wanted to communicate it to each other, but both of you were too fearful in your assumptions that the other person would react. So anyway, we get back to Jessica's and wind up getting some food. And then we start going over the whole like day's events. 71117. So 5 numbers we kept seeing all day. As we were writing what happened, I wrote the date so that we didn't forget about it, and I realized that it was July 11th of 2017. So when I write out the date, it's 7/11/17. So that was like the 3rd time that we saw 7/11/17 that day. Then later, like when it was 1:20 in the morning of the next day, I was looking in my phone over just some stuff to see if I saw any other 7-Elevens, and I saw the text message that the photographer sent me to go and meet them on the beach. She sent me a pin, and on the bottom of the photo was the longitude and latitude, and right in the middle of the longitude latitude was 7-1, and then the next latitude was 117. And so there again, 7/11/17. And when I saw that, it was like at the very, very end of the night before I went to bed, and I was just like, what? How? Like, just how? Just how? How can we see 5 consecutive numbers 5 times in one day, and one of them is the date? Like, it's 7/11/17 today. Okay, so now let's talk about the numbers. When you look into numerology and you see consecutive numbers, people call them angel numbers. You can look up angel numbers online. When you see consecutive numbers together, you want to look at the individual numbers that you're seeing. So with 71117, we're seeing 7s and 1s, which means we're going to take the energy of 7 and energy of 1 and take a look at those. The number 7 represents spiritual awakening, inner wisdom, good fortune. And 1
represents inspiration, motivation, happiness, new beginnings. When combined as one, they form a pretty powerful combination that urges you to listen to your instincts and your inner voices. This will lead you to the happiness that you have been searching for and bless you with good fortune. It's a powerful message from the spiritual and angelic realms. It relates to moving forward, starting over, and pursuing goals and ambitions. It's about instinct, initiative, inspiration, and change. It symbolizes tenacity, assertiveness, and leadership. It also represents creating realities with your actions, thoughts, and beliefs. Your angels are calling out to you and sending you a message with the angel number 711. It's either you need to start being conscious about your thoughts and think more positively, or you're doing a great job and you should continue on your divine life path. Whichever it is, consider yourself lucky that you're receiving these numbers at all. So what you don't know about the way that this whole thing panned out is that it impacted my mom's life in such a massive way. We talked about her health in the video, but she didn't describe nearly how severe her health issues were. And when this happened and we saw 7/11/17 everywhere, my mom left that day thinking, I know that God is telling me that I need to get my health in order, I need to take initiative in my life, and I need to turn my life around when it comes to my health. So you have to realize that I don't live with my mom, and a few days later when I saw her and I was like, okay, let's get things on the move, let's start doing some stuff. We, for a few weeks, were on a really good roll, but one of the main things about really taking initiative and doing something for you in your life is that you have to want it more than anyone else, and my mom didn't. She was in a victim mentality that was more concerned with her sickness than cultivating health, because she didn't know 100% if she did try to cultivate health and, redo diet, redo exercise, and really just push herself to try hard. She didn't know 100% if it was going to work or not. So she just didn't even want to try. That's what she would tell me. I would go over to her house and we would go to the park and we would do some exercises. I'm a yoga instructor as well, so I would lead her through some stuff, and she really enjoyed that, but she wouldn't do it unless I got her out of the house to do it. So this is one of the places where you really have to look at where your motivation lies and whether it's your own inspiration that's leading you, because if you want to make a change, regardless of how much anyone else is a cheerleader for you, you still have to do the shit yourself. You have to take initiative in your life, become a leader of your own path, and just go out and do the stuff that you know that you need to do, even if your cheerleader isn't there sometimes. A while after that, she kind of just went back down the same slope. She wasn't wanting to get out. I understand that my mom had bone marrow cancer and blood cancer, and she was in severe pain, chronic pain all the time. It's just crazy because now that she's gone, I think back on that day so often, and I'm like, what if she had changed her life around? What if she did get on top of her health? I truly believe, because I believe in synchronicity so much, I believe that if there's a will, there's a way. And I do think that if things had panned out a little differently, we just have no idea where we would be right now, and maybe my mom would still be here and be one of the miracle stories that you hear from the doctors all the time when people take their diseases and their cancers into their own hands and they go about it in, by naturopathic remedies, and, the cancer disappears in 3 or 4 months. What I'm saying is there are miracle stories out there, and I do believe that it could have panned out differently in my mom's life. It's so crazy to think about. This is the photo. It's just so sacred to me. It's so important. This photo forever is my favorite photo of her, and it's just so meaningful. This whole day, the 7-Eleven story, and us going wedding dress shopping together, which was my dream since I was a kid. This day was so special for me, and I'm just so grateful to have shared every single moment. I'm so grateful to have all this footage with her. I don't really talk about how deeply my grief process goes and how deep it looks, but if it is of interest for people in the future, I'd love to make a video series on the grieving process for anyone that's lost someone close to them, because it's a bitch. It's a tough bitch, the grieving process. And I still have days that I'm completely immobilized and I just like can't operate or function normally because I am in such deep grief because I can't understand that she's gone, and I just am wondering when she's gonna come back, and it's really hard to make peace with that. It's really hard to make peace with the fact that she's not here and that she's not gonna come back, and that all the memories that I have are like all the memories that I'm ever going to have with her. It's really hard, and you can tell just by talking about her for 20 seconds, like, it's so near to the surface. It's just underneath the surface. It's always ready to come out, and it can be really exhausting. So if you are someone who has lost someone close to you, like, understand that you're not alone, and understand that there are other people out there that are struggling with the grieving process too. And I don't know that it's ever going to get better. I don't know that I'm ever going to feel like completely at peace with not having my mom here. I honestly hope that I don't ever get to a place where I've lost all my emotion around it, but it's through these memories that I feel so closely connected to her, and that's what I have. I have my memories. I have my stories with her, and that is good enough for me. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.